Hi everyone, welcome back to Novel Nomad and happy Australian Reading Hour. So Thursday the 20th of September 2018 is day designated for Australian Reading Hour. And all that means is, and it's a national day to encourage everyone to sit down and read a book for 1 hour. Now, of course, I have already got my reading hour in. It is very easy for me to sit down and read. I find it comforting. I find it like warming to the soul. But in celebration of the 60 minutes you're to spend reading today, I thought I would give you 6 Australian books set in Australia, written by Australian authors, that I find amazing. Starting with number 1, and being that I love to read so much excellent crime, it is no surprise that I am recommending The Dry by Jane Harper. Now, Jane Harper is a bit of an expat from England, but we're still claiming her as Australian because this is set in rural Victoria in a farm that is suffering from drought, hence the name The Dry, and she manages to set up such a wonderful Australian Gothic atmosphere with a very reluctant detective that it just becomes absolutely phenomenal. And when you get to the end, it is, you just want to keep reading, keep going some more. Thankfully, the second book is already out, called Force of Nature, and the third book is coming out very soon. The next is for all you YA lovers. This is Sidekicks by Will Kostakis. This is set in Sydney, and these 3 boys who seemingly have nothing in common actually share a best friend. They are 3 best friends of this one boy who dies. So not only do these boys have to go through the grief of the loss of their best friend, they also have to come together in a way to understand the separation of their social circles and to see what makes them different and to really accept themselves and accept a larger society in which they live. Next is a bit more for the literary fiction lovers, and that is The Eye of the Sheep by Sophie Laguna. Now, this is the winner of the Miles Franklin Award, which is a prestigious award in Australian fiction circles, and it is well deserved. I utterly loved this book, mainly because you follow the life of a young boy with autism growing up in the 80s, and his family are trying to deal with it the best they can, although the only one who can really understand and really comfort Jimmy is his mother Paula. But Jimmy loves his father as well, but his father tends to have a great issue with not only drinking and alcoholism, but domestic abuse. So there is a warning for that in the book, but the way it's handled from Jimmy's perspective is absolutely amazing. So not only is this quite a disruptive environment for a young child, but a young child who's on the spectrum, and to see it from his viewpoint and his innocence is bittersweet. Next we have the smallest but the oldest book on the list, and that is A Town Like Alice by Neville Shute. Neville Shute, once again, was from England, but he moved to Australia in the 1960s, and many of his books are based in Australia. Now, this one is set during and after the Second World War, about a young English woman who was in Malaysia during the war, and instead of being a prisoner of war of the Japanese, she was instead made to march around Malaysia with many other women. And her struggles and story really make her desirous to find a man who helped her during the wartime, and to find and support a small struggling town in the Gulf country of Queensland, and really bring it back to life, because after the war there was so much need for revitalization and life-giving. It is a wonderful story, wonderfully written, and I was very worried going into this book that Neville Shute's and the attitude of women in the early 20th century would shine through, although there's so much respect and honour given to the female character that I highly appreciated and respected this work. Next we have another young adult read, because obviously Australia produces some great young adult writers. This one is probably from the late 90s, early 2000s, and that is On the Jellicoe Road by Melina Marchetta. Now, thankfully this book can be sought everywhere in the world, because I highly recommend you get it. It is set in New South Wales, just north of Sydney, and it's a dual story. It follows 2 groups of friends. One is in the present, about a young girl who was abandoned by her mother and has never really got over that. And as she struggles to understand her own roots and her own past, she actually has to understand her place within society and the respect that is given to her. At the same time, she's uncovering the story of the same group of friends about 20 years ago, as they went to the same boarding school, and they suffered many issues of growing up within a rural community and trying to understand where they belong. Lastly on my list is the latest read I have, and I highly recommend it because it's so much fun. If you like the wittiness of Jane Austen, this is almost Austen-esque in the wit and sarcasm that the author brings to the characters, and it is The Women in Black by Madeline St. John. This is coming out as a movie in Australia this month called The Ladies in Black. I'm very excited to read it. It is set in Sydney during the 1950s, and you follow a cast of women who work in a department store wearing all black. And of course the department store is called Goods, but really it is a very close shadow of David Jones, which is a still department store in Australia today. So you follow the lives of not only the young Christmas casual who has dreams and hopes of getting into university and becoming educated, but you follow a woman who is seeking love, and not the type of love that is just quick and transient, but the deep abiding love. You find a woman seeking more confidence in her place, not only her marriage but her work. Then you follow some refugees who've moved to Australia from war-torn Europe, and they're not only finding life in Australia wonderful in comparison, but they're also living life to the absolute fullest because they've never had this opportunity before. Alright, so I just want to say happy reading. Get that hour in today if you can. But if you want to try any of these books, perhaps read a chapter or two of these books over the hour to see if any Australian authors and Australian fiction can pique your interest. So happy reading. See you next time. Bye.